Are you the teachers of God?
That'd
No,
be we.
they're the Irish of God.
I
They're
see.
special. The
I
Irish of God.
see.
Yeah, yeah, special. That's the word.
Very good. Very good. All right. Hold on a second here. How is everybody?
Good.
Good. Hey,
Wonderful. I apologize that my camera is not working, but hopefully I'll get it fixed today.
Good.
okay. All right. Just checking in with everybody. Wow. We're in chapter 14, which, as Tim was describing very poetically yesterday, how chapter 14 is sort of Beethoven's Fourth Symphony somehow. Ken made the connection with that in one of the places I read recently. But it's just you know, it's beautiful, it's poetic, and it's almost like a resting point, which is actually perfect because the Holy Spirit's curriculum for us is that we learn to rest in Him, trust in Him. Yeah. And this whole chapter is about, you know, His logic. And when we look at the Holy Spirit's logic, it is over and over and over again: rest, do nothing, let me show you. You know, the whole chapter is about learning that we don't know anything. And the irony of that is, you know, what we need to learn is that we earnestly, sincerely get that we don't know anything, and that help is available to us, but we need to learn to be guiltless first, or we're not so willing to accept the grace of God if we're still in attack mode, if we haven't learned yet that everything that we see that justifies attack, upset, anger, annoyance, any level of it, anything that we see that seems to be causing us dismay and discomfort is not there. It's simply not there. We've put it there, but it's really coming from the mind, and it's coming from a decision that we've made, and it's coming from which voice we want to listen to, whether we want to listen to the voice that speaks for God and knows God's will for us. And so we'll make sure He guides us to the understanding, to receiving the understanding what that really means, that we have everything. And so putting our faith and trust in the Holy Spirit is big from here on. It's really our way out of it's our way out of hell. I always love this section. It's in the manual, and it's on page I think it's on page 70 or 71. Let's say 70 in the manual for teachers. Yep, it is. And what he's saying here, this is the end of the course, it's the end of the manual, and he's kind of saying, okay, here you go, fly, fly, it's time now. I've given you everything you need, and I'm going to push you off the edge. And they flew. I can't remember the poem, but it ends with he pushed them and they flew. So, this is kind of Jesus pushing us and we fly. And these are all the tools in this chapter. But here in paragraph 2, sentence 5, let's see. Oh, let's go back to sentence 4. No one should attempt to answer these questions alone. Surely no teacher of God has come this far without realizing that. The curriculum is highly individualized, and all aspects are under the Holy Spirit's particular care and guidance. All of it. Highly individualized because we think we are individuals. And that's what we're here to unlearn. One of the things we have to unlearn is not to give so much importance to our specialness and our special interests. And we just finished the Attainment of the Real World, where he says, your idea of what you need is dangerous to you. So, we're at the brink here where we are getting, a little nudge. You can move forward. And then it says, ask, and he will answer. The Holy Spirit will answer. The responsibility is his, not yours, his. And he alone is fit to assume it. To do so is his function. To refer the questions to him is yours. Would you want to be responsible for decisions about which you understand so little? Be glad you have a teacher who cannot make a mistake. Ha 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 ha. It's like, which do you want? Do you want to be making decisions about things you absolutely have no idea whether it's in your best interest and the best interest of everyone else, because the Holy Spirit always decides for everyone. So everyone is going to win, no matter what the situation is, with the Holy Spirit in charge. And we don't know how to do that. Be glad you have a teacher, however, who cannot make a mistake. His answers are always right. Would you say that of yours? And then there's even another advantage, paragraph 3, and a very important one, in referring decisions to the Holy Spirit with increasing frequency. Perhaps you have not thought of this aspect, but its centrality is obvious. To follow the Holy Spirit's guidance is to let yourself be absolved of guilt. So, another way of, along with seeing our brother's innocence, another way to be absolved of guilt is to turn all issues and problems that we're saving for ourselves, to fix or figure out or, do something about somewhere down the line, and turn the worry, the concern, the angst, the weariness, all of the unpleasant things that are really just symptoms of our guilt, just symptoms that, we've chained ourselves to these illusions that allow us to suffer and be miserable. And those are all attractions to guilt. We talked about this the other day, and how it's, well, this chapter is about learning to experience our guiltlessness. So, this would, of course, be the Holy Spirit's chapter, and learning to be absolved of guilt is to turn everything over. Does everybody know well, I can share with you what it means to me when I say turn something over. And maybe you can share what that means to you. But when there's an issue, I look at it within. I look at it in the mind. I look at the story I'm telling myself with the situation. I look at, the complexity of it. Remember, we're learning that everything the Holy Spirit does is simple because it's already all been done. I mean, he doesn't have a very hard job because, the correction was made, and so all problems are already solved in God. And the Holy Spirit is kind of like the one who makes a link up, and so that's why we have one of the prayers is decide for God for me, because it's the Holy Spirit that knows the link up. And so we say, decide for God for me. So to follow the Holy Spirit's guidance is really to follow God's guidance through the Holy Spirit and let yourself be absolved of guilt. This is the essence of the atonement. That nothing happened. And you feel for a moment the expansiveness that comes upon us when we truly let the problem go. And letting it go is again symbolized by giving it to the Holy Spirit. But when we genuinely do that, we forget about it. We literally forget about the problem. It literally was not there in the first place. We put it there, and by the willingness to give that back, give everything we made back to God in a sense, bring it in and bring it back and let it go for God's sakes, as Tim would say. Let it go for God's sakes because it's nothing. So for me, when I say it, I turn it over, it's out of my hands and I forget about it. I'm not going to, otherwise I would be carrying it with me. So I don't know, anyone want to share what they mean when they say turning this over?
I thought line 2 is weird. Perhaps, speaking to Helen, Jesus says, you've not thought about this aspect, but its centrality is obvious. I mean, he spent the whole course writing about guilt, looking at guilt, letting go of guilt. And then he goes, but maybe you don't get that yet. The centrality of guilt in all this is what we're trying to do. And in reference to what you were asking, you know, as good course students, it's nice to admit we don't know anything about anything. But the centrality of that, the reason we don't know anything about anything is we believe in guilt, which makes us insane. If we're guiltless and you don't know it, clap your hands. I mean, we're all walking around clapping our hands because we think we're guilty. And we're certainly looking for guilt in our brothers. But the centrality of that, it's not just like telling Jesus, I don't know anything. I mean, that's, you know, it's a big step. But telling him I don't know anything because I'm still looking for guilt in my brother, that's the issue. And then ultimately guilt in myself. He says it's to let yourself be absolved of guilt. I mean, it's nice you realize you don't know anything about anything, but the reason we don't is because I'm hanging on to looking for guilt and never admit that's why I don't know anything about anything. Yeah.
Well, you know, in the section on the happy learner, you know, he needs a guiltless learner. Guilt doesn't learn very well. So that's why, you know, his first big program he's introducing here, if we're going to go forward and have your mind healed, is, you know, we need to recognize guilt. We need to see it for what it is so we can withdraw our belief in it. Guilt is powerless, but we make it powerful because we give our belief to it. So really another way of thinking about this is our learning that guilt has no effect. It can have no effect. It's not of God, and nothing that is not of God can affect you in any way, can affect me in any way. I am forever the effect of God. Lesson, in fact, we were going to look at that lesson a little bit later. So,
Lynn, can I ask you something? It's Monica.
hi, Monica. Yeah, sure.
So what I hear you saying also is not just to say, oh, I accept it. I'm probably feeling guilty about something. So Holy Spirit, just take that. You really need to look at it, is what I hear you saying as well. And I can share that recently in my excavation of looking for these places of guilt that I'm holding on to, I realized that in this life story that I was raised with my cousin, exactly the same age, only a few months apart, and he in his early 20s became paranoid schizophrenic and has been homeless, and we don't really know where for all these years. And I had no idea how much guilt I was harboring, almost like a survivor's guilt, because we were raised together and we were supposed to be together in this life. And so I have been in various ways hurting myself and holding on to this guilt and imagining that my entire family has shunned me, but I know that's not true. As soon as I saw that guilt I was harboring the other day, and then I gave it to the Holy Spirit, my aunt called me within a minute, and I experienced the entire family at her house being very, very loving. And it almost happened instantaneous that my perception of how my family treats me was caused by my own guilt. But when I then saw it and gave it over. So there's a process going on here, really looking at where is that piece where I haven't seen it, and then offering it, right? It's not enough to just say, I know there's guilt in there, so here you go, Holy Spirit. Find it and take it, right?
Well, you know, the proof is in the, you know, the witnessing to that, you know, how we know that we're really learning from the Holy Spirit is, you know, that there is no, there's no angst left, and there is only the miracle. So the miracle is what actually tells us that we're learning from the Holy Spirit. I mean,
Okay.
I couldn't tell you that. You know, you don't know. Your ego doesn't know. It doesn't know what's good or bad or a failure or a success. Jesus tells us it doesn't know anything in this process. Everything is revealed, and you have nothing to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. It's simply revealed. So yeah, when we let go of the whole thing.
I was thinking about that word shun, and you know, I mean, whenever I feel disrespected, whenever I feel shunned, then obviously whoever's doing that is the guilty party. But what I'm really feeling bad about is I shunned them. I disrespected them. I wasn't willing to see them the way God sees them. I wasn't willing to see them as innocent. So, I mean, internally, I'm the one doing the shunning. Kind of like, you know, I threw them out. And then I took that and put it on them, and then pretend I didn't do it. I mean, you know, internally, we shun God. That was the big shunning. Then we shunned each other. We shunned Jesus. We shunned our true self. And then we got to go looking for trouble. That's what family of origins for. I get to place that first guilt on somebody. Look what they did to me.
Yeah.
And it's interesting the moment that Monica said that it was her guilt, that freed them to call her.
Yeah. We're always the problem. We're the one keeping everything stuck, if you want to look at it that way. You know, we're the ones that you know, can't see the world in the real world because we're made ourselves blind by focusing on the unreal world. So, you know, we're in we're in a rough situation here, but I don't, you know, this is an enjoyable process, but until it becomes enjoyable, it's not, because, you know, we make up so many things about it, and we think we have to bring so much to the process, you know, and so much effort to it. And, you know, our help is right here and totally available to us. And that's what Jesus is trying to say in this chapter. Don't go anywhere without the Holy Spirit. You know, no matter what you're doing, practice the holy instant with the Holy Spirit. And just, you know, check it out. You know, he's saying, like, check it out. Like, see, to be in the real world is simply to keep our focus on it. That's back 2 chapters ago, I think. To be in the real world is to keep your focus on it. So that's the, you know, that's the place that we will actually learn from the Holy Spirit, and we will actually see that there is no such thing as an enemy. We will actually learn that we are invulnerable, which, interesting enough, in this chapter, invulnerable is simultaneous with guiltlessness. So, you know, those times when we literally leave the world behind, and, you know, that's pretense, we leave the world behind. There is no world. There is literally no world, and that's what we're learning here, and specifically in this chapter, where he's introducing us to that idea. And so, wow, we're so lucky.
Jesus just nudged me and said, you have to go from the shunning back to the shining. we've been talking about shining lately. The shining of guiltlessness. We got to stop doing the shunning so we can shine and look for shining. And all those people we were shunning.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't that just a repeat of the original thought of leaving God in all these stories? You know, I think that they left me, but really I left them, but you know, nobody left anybody. It's just a repeat of the stories. It's just that we don't know until we know how what we did. And so we get all these little worldly ways of discovering it so that we can then become innocent again.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Stephen. Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It says right here, this is, this whole thing is highly individualized. And I know, I know for me, when those kind of things happen, and I've had several to many of those, I immediately say to myself, well, I'm kind of special. And that's ego coming in right away. But really, there's nothing special about it. That's kind of, miracles are natural. They're supposed to happen. And so when those kinds of things happen for me, it takes me a minute, but eventually I get to that gentle smile. And I also, I was just thinking, when I was looking at this and I'm thinking about spiritual specialness and how I do that and how I get out of that by continuing to look with Holy Spirit, and I get to that gentle smile. Tim said just the other day something I'd never seen in the Course. Jesus says, "You will see me," and when I get chills when those kind of things happen. I can see him. It's a Christ vision thing, and it's for me individualized, so I can realize that I'm going to get some evidence here and there, and without that, I would lose hope. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Yeah, I think that's what Jesus means when he talks about seeing. It's Christ's vision. Seeing without the guilt in between. It's just beautiful. Yeah. Let's see. Where were we? Oh, we were in As for the Rest. So I think we finished that idea that, the imagined usurping of God's function is what we're so guilty about, that we're the power, we're in charge. And so turning to the Holy Spirit is a way of undoing that. And the imagined usurping of functions, not your own, is the basis of fear. The whole world you see reflects the illusion that you have done so, making fear inevitable. To return the function to the one to whom it belongs is thus the escape from fear. Makes sense? And it is this that lets the memory of love return to you. Do not then think that following the Holy Spirit's guidance is necessary merely because of your own inadequacies. It is the way out of hell for you. That's quite a statement.
What I was running for or going toward before was when we turn over a situation, like normally, it looks like a good thing, and it is turn over any situation to the Holy Spirit. But what I'm really turning over is my search for guilt in any situation. It's not I'm turning over the situation. It's not like the Holy Spirit's going to magically come in and fix the situation. But that search for guilt is what I'm turning over. He says that the guilt is the core of the issue, and the guilt is the core of the curriculum, meaning letting it go. That's what I turn over. I mean, if I'm going to turn over anything, it's got to be this crazed, intense desire I have to shun, make somebody, believe they're the ones that are being disrespectful and shunning me.
Yeah, thanks. So let's go to the decision for guiltlessness, which is in chapter 14. And we're on 274. And I'm going to read a few sections here. Starting with paragraph 3. There is no compromise that you can make with guilt and escape the pain that only guiltlessness allays, relieves you of. The pain that only guiltlessness will bring. Learning is living here, as creating is being in heaven. Whenever the pain of guilt seems to attract you, remember that if you yield to it, you are deciding against your happiness, and you will not learn how to be happy. You can't learn from the Holy Spirit. Once you accept guilt into your mind. Say therefore to yourself gently, but with the conviction born of the love of God and of his Son, what I experience, I will make manifest. If I am guiltless, I have nothing to fear. I choose to testify to my acceptance of the atonement, not to its rejection. I would accept my guiltlessness by making it manifest and sharing it. Let me bring peace to God's Son from his Father. Well, that almost reads like a manifesto, doesn't it? Like a declaration of what's valuable, for sure. And then he goes on, each day, each hour and minute, even each second, even each second, you are deciding between the crucifixion and the resurrection, between the ego and the Holy Spirit. The ego is the choice for guilt. The Holy Spirit is the choice for guiltlessness. The power of decision is all that is yours. Holy Spirit or ego? Who is my teacher? Who will I see this with? Who will teach me what's really here in this situation, circumstance, whatever it may be Teach me to see what is really here. Give me eyes to see. For the love of God, we need to learn to see. What you can decide between is fixed, because there are no alternatives except truth and illusion. And there is no overlap between them, because they are opposites which cannot be reconciled and cannot both be true. You are guilty or guiltless, bound or free, unhappy or happy. The miracle then, paragraph 5, teaches you that you have chosen guiltlessness, freedom, and joy. It is not a cause, it is an effect. It is the natural result of choosing right, attesting to your happiness that comes from choosing to be free of guilt. Everyone you offer healing to returns it. Everyone you attack keeps it, cherishes it by holding it against you. Whether he does that or not is irrelevant. But you will think that he does. You will think that he does. Yeah. He could have forgotten it immediately, and you're still carrying it in your mind. Oh my, it is impossible to offer what you do not want without this penalty. The cost of giving is receiving. The cost of giving is receiving. Either it is a penalty from which you suffer, or the happy purchase of a treasure to hold dear. So again, linking up the Holy Spirit with the guiltlessness, with seeing differently. And the mind, and that all that matters is the mind that is behind the seeing. Who is seeing? Am I seeing with the Holy Spirit?
I was thinking about this in terms of, my behavioral addiction to anything. And, it's, when he's asking me to see the world as an illusion, yeah, sort of. But what I really believe in is that not just a world, that's not an illusion, but I believe in a guilty world. It's the guilty world that keeps me from seeing that it is an illusion, my hanging on to the guilt. And then I'm so addicted to the guilt. Like, before you get to a 12-step meeting, you got to have to admit you're kind of addicted. And maybe you can't stop, and maybe you need help. I mean, that's why people go to the meetings in the first place. They're not sure it's going to happen, but they're willing to try. But so part of it, I think what Monica was talking about is I wake up to how much guilt I'm looking for. I think I'm right. I think they are guilty, but how often I do that? I mean, if I really think without guilt, I'm going to die, that, like any addiction, without me doing my addiction, I'll die. Then, I mean, we have to start to get in touch with that in order to realize that. That's why he says it's the core of the curriculum. It's not the world as an illusion is the core. It's a guilty world is the core of the illusion. And it's the guilt that I am so addicted to that if I don't fess up to that, I'm not going to be willing to let it go. How often I do that. And it's not like going around saying, mea culpa, I'm guilty, I'm guilty. It's going around just admitting, like he does through every lesson, how often I'm looking for guilt, how often I'm looking to blame somebody, how I have to have hate specifics, guilt specifics in any given moment. I mean, it's incredible addiction. And I think I'll die if I stop. And yeah, I will die. I mean, I'll die as an ego, but that's not such a bad thing. Being an addict is not a lot of fun. If your addict dies, oh well. it just evaporates back into the nothingness from which it came.
Back when Len was reading from For the Rest, it mentioned in there the attraction to the pain of guilt. Why would I be attracted to the pain of guilt?
Well, I would be attracted to that as an ego because that's how I define myself. That's what I tell God I am. This is who I am. And any identity will do. It doesn't matter as long as we keep asserting some form of I am this, I am that, I am this. So without it, who would I be without it?
So this is what Tim means when he says we are addicted to guilt.
We're addicted to hanging on to that dream figure because we haven't yet learned to disengage from it, to become the one who looks upon it like it looks on everything else in the world from a perspective of love. We're the one looking at it all from the perspective of the Holy Spirit or of love, or we're not. We're the one looking at the whole dreamscape through the eyes of the ego and reinforcing, the separation that the ego so dearly wants to preserve. We literally have to be sick of it, tired of it.
I was thinking pain in any given moment proves I'm real. Or what I think I am is real. I mean, that's what pain's for. I mean, work's good. And physical pain's bad enough, but the pain of guilt, the pain of getting in touch with how often I have to make other people feel guilty and my own guilt. The pain of that proves I did it. I'm real. This separated thing is so real because I would never feel this horrible if it wasn't real.
Yeah, I really experienced the habitual, the habitual is the habit is where we go for our safety as an ego. It's familiar. It's a touchstone. And what I find so helpful in what we've been reading is that Jesus is so unequivocal. In my futzing about, the strong voice of pointing out that the penalty in terms of if I load guilt on my brother, I'm going to think that he's out to attack me whether he is or not. I mean, that's the whole story of what's happening in the world. I mean, I'm going to think that. I'm going to think the world is out to get me for sure. And he's so unequivocal. Oh, that's wonderful. In this world of equivocation, of my own equivocation.
Right. Yeah, he made it very, very clear that you cannot have a little bit of guilt in vulnerability. It's just not going to work that way.
Yeah.
It's total. It's one or the other.
Not one spot.
Not one spot of guilt. The guilty are not invulnerable.
Man, that's
They're looking to be attacked.
You know, a little guilt isn't enough. Like any addict, I want more. I want backup. I think, Abby, did you have something?
oops.
You're either breaking up, Abby, or microphone isn't working, or something's happening. We see your lips moving, and your microphone seems to be off. Oh, who knows? We got the vibe, though.
Sign language, Judy. Abby.
Is that any better?
Yes.
I'll get rid of the earpiece. The beginning of chapter 28, he talks about the effects of guilt and the first couple of paragraphs, and we are the effects of guilt as individuals, as was mentioned.
Yeah.
Who would I be without my guilt, without my psychological body, so to speak, without my story?
That's a great way to put it. We are the effects of guilt.
That's,
I
he
think
said
we-
it.
I think we project guilt in order to maintain our specialness by judging another and saying, look, I'm better than you. And that maintains our specialness. And we get addicted to that.
Well, what I thought was interesting in what Lynn read was the fact that we're the ones that send out the dogs of fear looking. That's our choice.
Right.
We've cut loose those dogs.
Yes.
We're on the hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will find them. Let's see here. Did we look at paragraph 5 yet? Anybody know? The miracle teaches you on page 275.
You got about a sentence or two into it, and then what Judy was pointing out, that we're going to see our brothers guilty whether they're, and attacking us whether they are or not. That's what the
Right.
middle of that paragraph talks about.
Right, right. Okay, got it. All right. In paragraph 6, no penalty is ever asked of God's Son except by himself and of himself. Every chance given him to heal is another opportunity to replace darkness with light and fear with love. If he refuses it, the opportunity, he binds himself to darkness, because he did not choose to free his brother and enter light with him. By giving power to nothing, he throws away the joyous opportunity to learn that nothing has no power. And by not dispelling darkness, he became afraid of darkness and of light. Wow. The joy of learning that darkness has no power over the Son of God is the happy lesson the Holy Spirit teaches and would have you teach with him. It is his joy to teach it, as it will be yours. The way to teach this simple lesson is merely this: guiltlessness is invulnerability. Therefore, make your invulnerability manifest to everyone. Teach him that whatever he may try to do to you, your perfect freedom from the belief that you can be harmed shows him he is guiltless. So there it is, the idea of undoing the crucifixion, undoing the belief that someone has been harmed and hurt.
I was thinking about what David said, that, you know, I mean, in order to keep doing something that obviously really hurts, there's got to be a few drops of seeming, I feel better for a few seconds. I mean, that's, you know, same with drugs, same with anger, same with anything. I feel better for a few seconds. So like with specialness, it's like in that moment, you're a little bit more guilty than me. When I can prove you're guilty, you know, it's not denying my own guilt, but it's a relative guilt. So for a few seconds, I'm feeling better because your guilt's a whole lot worse than mine. That's a hell of a reason to feel good. But I mean, if we're honest about it, that's what specialness is. I'm kind of bad, but in this moment, you're really bad. So at least I'm not that bad. I'll feel good about that for a few seconds, but all it does is reinforce my own guilt. I'm still guilty, which was the only problem in the first place. I mean, if I don't deal with my own guilt, that was always the issue. So there seems to be a few drops of feeling good for a few seconds. But,
it's a dance.
It's a dance. A dance from hell.
Yeah, we need a name. We need a name for that dance. I'm sure we'll come up with one.
How low can you go?
That would be the jitterbug that Steve was talking about the other day.
Yes. Oh, yeah, exactly. All right. Let's look at paragraph 9. Whenever you choose to make decisions for yourself, you are thinking destructively, and the decision will be wrong. It will hurt you because of the concept of decision that led to it. It is not true that you can make decisions by yourself or for yourself alone. No thought of God's Son can be separate or isolated in its effects. Every decision is made for the whole sonship, directed in and out, and influencing a constellation larger than anything you ever dreamed of. Wow. So every decision, the decision for guiltlessness, for invulnerability, for resurrection, for healing, for forgiveness, you know, all of that is where our focus you know, our focus needs to be, wants to be. and then we get to see how our focus slips into making, you know, once again, a problem real, a brother as a problem, And we just keep doing this over and over until we learn to ask for help in every single situation, to remember that we're not walking alone, we're not traveling alone. We have the help of the Holy Spirit with us. So every decision is made for the whole sonship, directed in and out. And then to tie it in with the idea of invulnerability again, paragraph 10, those who accept the atonement are invulnerable. Those who accept that nothing happened, meaning the thing that seemed external to our mind that we thought was the cause of our upset, worry, concern, misery is not. It was not. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. It was a shadowy projection of a thought in the mind. You see it. Nothing happened. But those who believe they are guilty will respond to guilt because they think it is salvation. You know what Tim was talking about a few minutes ago. To the ego, guilt is salvation. Yeah. And the guiltless, as we learned in the last chapter, are blasphemous. To see someone is guiltless, how dare they, to be completely innocent. We all know we sinned, as the storyline goes. Let's see. Paragraph 11. It will never happen that you must make decisions for yourself. You are not bereft of help, and help that knows the answer. Would you be content with little, which is all that you alone can offer yourself, when he who gives you everything will simply offer it to you? He will never ask what you have done to make you worthy of the gift of God. Ask it not, therefore, of yourself. Instead, accept his answer, for he knows that you are worthy of everything God wills for you. Do not try to escape the gift of God that he so freely and so gladly offers you. He offers you but what God gave him for you. You need not decide whether you are deserving of it. God knows that you are. Peace abides in every mind that quietly accepts the plan God set for its atonement, relinquishing his own. You know not of salvation, for you do not understand it. Make no decisions about what it is or where it lies, but ask the Holy Spirit everything and leave all decisions to his gentle counsel.
I was thinking about the process of You know, especially as beginning course students, we give ourselves a little guilt break, a little reprieve from guilt for a while. We'll go to a meeting. You know, we'll talk about guilt. We'll look at it for a little while. Or, you know, we sit quietly, we meditate, we go through our parade of drama. So we have these little guilt-free breaks during the day, and then we go back to doing guilt again. You know, we go back to like worrying. What is it I'm supposed to decide now? I mean, it's kind of a, and he talks about it in paragraph 2, but we don't really see guiltlessness as an ongoing goal. We just see it as a little reprieve for an hour, so I have a break from my pain. But we need that both. He says in paragraph 2, we really believe we need to reconcile guilt with guiltlessness. We need to have a little of both, or that's what defines who I am, who I think I am. As I got to have a little guilt, and I got to have a little break from it occasionally. Just to prove to myself I'm not that crazy. This is a guilt break right now.
Is that the little trick that Stephen was talking about in the dance?
Yeah, it's a herky jerky. It's a jump back jack. We love that stuff. You know, we're so accustomed to. We've been doing it since we were 3. You know, the way I see it, and especially in our adulthood. Yeah, for me, it's just a dance or it's a song going in one direction or the other. I'm not sure how that works, but I know what it looks like. Thank you.
It's entertaining. It looks entertaining. I wonder. I mean, I'm certain right-minded people have observed craziness here. Just thinking of, oh my goodness, you know, how if we really open our minds and realize that, you know, we're all freeing and healing one another. And it's, you know, it's not personal. It's you know, what we're awakening together as one mind, because you know, we don't awaken as separate and special. It's the undoing of the separate and special thing that we believe so dearly in. So how great, how wonderful. Yeah.
Last night we were looking at that. We have Da Vinci did The Last Supper. It's basically it's a guiltless party. I mean, there's people there freaking out and doing weird stuff, but I mean, basically Jesus is at the center. It's a guiltless party. Everybody knows they're kind of like in this community of guiltlessness, and they're hanging out with the guy, with the man, you know, and they know they're going in, you know, even though they're occasionally freaking out. Judas is off doing his trip, and you know, they're all like, they're turning to each other and doing a little gossipy thing here and there. But I mean, they know why they're there. They know it's a guiltless trip. And they're there for that reason. That's why they're hanging out with them. And that's, you know, that's kind of like, if we can get through, not most of the day, but part of the day with that idea of community. Like in any given moment, whoever it is I'm hanging out with Jesus. I mean, I'm part of the guiltless trip, on the guiltless community. And that's the reality. The unreality is I keep looking for guilt, and I keep insisting we're not part of a guiltless community, that I'm not hanging out with Jesus looking for guiltlessness. I mean, that's a lot of work to totally deny what the real community is and then go looking for trouble every second when I'm sitting right in the middle of this guiltless community and Jesus didn't go anywhere.
Right.
I mean, we're all in the Last Supper every second, just pretending, you know, we got to turn and gossip for a little bit and pretend I need a reprieve from all this guiltlessness because it's too much. I got to go back to guilt for a little while. It's a wild painting.
Then they all went to one side of the table so Da Vinci could take a picture.
That's good. That's good.
All right, we're going to close out this section on page 278. And I'll read the prayer at the end, and we'll take a minute or so together to let it sink in. Say to the Holy Spirit only, decide for me, and it is done. For his decisions are reflections of what God knows about you. And in this light, error of any kind becomes impossible. How gracious it is to decide all things through him whose equal love is given equally to all alike. He leaves you no one outside you. And so he gives you what is yours because your Father would have you share it with him. In everything, be led by him, and do not reconsider. Trust him to answer quickly, surely, and with love for everyone who will be touched in any way by the decision. And everyone will be touched by the decision. Would you take unto yourself the sole responsibility for deciding what can bring only good to everyone? Would you know this? You taught yourself the most unnatural habit of not communicating with your Creator. Yet you remain in close communication with him and with everything that is within him, as it is within yourself. Unlearn isolation through his loving guidance and learn of all the happy communication that you have thrown away but could not lose. Whenever you are in doubt what you should do, think of his presence in you and tell yourself this, and only this: he leadeth me and knows the way which I know not. Yet he will never keep from me what he would have me learn. And so I trust him to communicate to me all that he knows for me. Then let him teach you quietly how to perceive your guiltlessness, which is already there. Mm. Yeah, meet the guiltless Son of God. Mm. Woo. So beautiful. So beautiful. Mm.
I wonder if you threw a guiltless party, how many people would come? A guilt-free party. Oh no, Dave's coming.
Kind of like sugar-free candy.
That's good. Yeah, good.
It would be quite the thing, wouldn't it? Thank you, everybody. Who we appreciate you. I appreciate you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jesus appreciates you. Ken, I know, appreciates you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
We appreciate you. And
Thank you, Lynn.
also.
Yeah, thanks.
And thank you, Monica. Thank you, Tim, and everyone. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Lynn, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chi Chi.